Let's take you to the country's roads. With the Easter weekend upon us, high traffic volumes are expected on major routes for the long weekend. In KwaZulu-Natal, the N3 Toll Concession expects a peak between 3 and 6 p.m. later today and tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. In Mpumalanga, the Border Management Authority there says it's ready to manage the influx of travelers expected at its ports of entry. The Lebombo Border Post between South Africa and Mozambique, as well as Oshoek between South Africa and Eswatini, are expected to be among the busiest in Mpumalanga. Our reporters Nobuhle, Modise and Mweli Masilela are in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga respectively, standing by to give us an update in terms of what the situation is looking like at this hour. Let's start in KwaZulu-Natal with you, Nobuhle, Modise. What are we seeing and hearing there?
Indeed, earlier we had the Transport MEC Suphohlomuga here, who was part of monitoring operations with some of the Metro Police officers, some people from Home Affairs, the SAPS. As you will remember that over the weekend on Sunday, the Easter Safety Plan was launched by the Premier of the province, Nobuhle, as well as the MEC himself. And when they launched that plan, they did indicate that this plan encompasses not just law enforcement but other stakeholders, including those from Home Affairs. We saw earlier a car that was stopped that had no license disc. The driver also didn't have a license, and it was a foreign national. And so those are some of the things that they've had to deal with. We saw that particular driver being apprehended because, number one, they didn't have legal papers to be in the country, they didn't have a license, and they didn't have a license disc. So those are the kind of stop and searches that they are doing. And also the safety plan was also launched in order to curb some of the criminal activity that we've seen in recent weeks. We've been reporting on shootings almost every week since the beginning of the year, and the issue of the proliferation of illegal firearms in the province is also a major one. So the province is saying that instead of being reactive, they are being proactive to ensure that those that are coming into the province are assured that they are indeed safe. I did have a chat with the MEC for Transport earlier, Mr. Suphohlomuga. Let's take a listen to what he had to say, especially regarding the issue of some of those officers who had to then be taken out of leave in order to ensure that they increase police visibility in the province.
We have requested that all the South African police officers that are on leave, we requested them to come from their leave so that we increase number of members on the ground. They are all over the province. There are hotspots that we have identified, which is eThekwini for sure, and Maritzburg, and Hlatuze, and other areas. We have increased our police officers, and we are working with RTI because we also monitoring all those cars that don't have number plates. We are pounding those cars, and we are checking if people they have correct IDs because there's Home Affairs. We also check their driver's license.
So to do an increased police visibility to ensure that those who are coming into the province are indeed feeling safe, and they are doing those stop and searches on a regular. There are hotspots that have been identified in the province, and they are ensuring that people will indeed feel safe within this Easter period. We know that about over 2,000 officers have been deployed in and around the province. I'm just quickly also going to move out of shot so my colleague can show you the amount of cars that are passing through here at the Tugela Toll Plaza here on the N3, which is about 2 hours out of Durban. And the N3 Toll Concession also says that they're expecting about between 700 and 800 cars an hour that pass through here. And we know, as you said earlier in the intro, that they are expecting that from about 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. that's when we'll see a peak in traffic, because some people are going to work and will then be driving into the province later. So that peak is expected around those times. And tomorrow they're also expecting a peak from around 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So that's what's happening here on the ground. We will also be moving around just to show you, those people that are coming into the province and whether indeed we are seeing a peak in traffic.
Low traffic volumes at midday at least, and a high police visibility. Thank you very much, Nobuhle Modise, coming to us from the N3 in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's see what the situation is at the Lebombo Border Post between South Africa and Zimbabwe. Mweli, Masilela, is it much of the same where you are?
Good day to you know that yesterday the Department of Community Safety, Security and Liaison actually launched the road safety campaign for the Easter holidays, and that campaign was led by the Mpumalanga Premier Ntsipane, the MEC for Community Safety, Security and Liaison Bosishongwe, as well as the Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Simakaleng Manamela. But we are here at the Lebombo Border Post now, where there's going to be a monitoring process in as far as the people being processed between South Africa and Mozambique is concerned. But let's bring in Dr. Mike Masiapata, who is the Commissioner for the Border Management Authority, just to get a view in terms of what is expected today. Doctor, thanks for talking to us. You just came out of a meeting with the Provincial Police Commissioner and the MEC. If you can just give us some details in as far as what is it exactly that we can expect here at the Lebombo Border Post.
No, thank you very much, Mweli. I think the first thing that we can indicate is that we have done a lot of planning for this particular festive period, especially in terms of the processing of people that are going to be coming into the port with the intention of crossing into the Mozambican side. So on that basis, I can indicate that we have already, I would say, put our plans on the table, and today we are actually implementing those plans. So the first thing that is going to be happening is that as the people come through into the port, we are going to be diverting some of the people into an area of the port called Kilometer 7, and that is where we have actually co-located with our Mozambican counterpart, particularly for the purposes of processing those individuals, so that when they then move from Kilometer 7, they don't have to stop at the port. They will just drive through and cross into Mozambique, and when they get on the Mozambican side, they wouldn't even have to stop because they would have already been processed on this side. But at the same time, we have also created another area inside the port here where we are again co-locating with the Mozambicans, and that is where we are going to be processing the people that are actually to cross to the Mozambican side. In terms of the trucks, their normal route will always be used as usual, and therefore we are fairly ready for all of the people that are going to be crossing through the port of entry.
And then in terms of cross-border crimes, are there any plans in place, as you can see that law enforcement agencies are already on the ground?
Yeah, so in terms of the interjurisdictional crimes, most of those had been happening on the N4 as the cars are actually queuing towards the port. So on that basis, we have all our colleagues from the law enforcement authorities across, and that is fairly your South African Police Services colleagues. We have our colleagues from the SANDF. We have the colleagues also from the the traffic department, together with the members of the Border Management Authority, that is the border guards. So they are going to be on the corridor for 24 hours, and the intention is to make sure that we are able to deal with the people who are intending to do any kind of crimes, as it were. In terms of the borderline, similarly, we do have members of the SANDF working together with the border guards who are going to be statically deployed in those problematic areas where we know that most of the time people will do criminal activities, but also cross into Mozambique or back into South Africa through, and that is the plan that we have put in place in terms of those issues.
I just want to know also there's concerns about the smuggling of vehicles, especially from the South African side into Mozambique, and also illicit cigarettes. Any plan on that?
Yeah, when it comes to the issue of the smuggling of vehicles, our team from the SAPS are stationed just in front of the port with the intention of inspecting all of the various vehicles that are coming towards the port. And in that instance, all of the vehicles that are suspected to be possibly stolen, they are then putting them aside and be able to get a process actually done over those vehicles. Obviously, we do have the system that is basically used by SAPS in terms of the flagging of the vehicles that might have been stolen and all of that. And all of those processes are actually up. As soon as a vehicle is being picked up to be stolen, we are able to then activate the members of the SAPS in the country in terms of detectives to be able to take that process and do the processing further. So that is actually in terms of that. And of course, in terms of any kind of illicit, I would say commodity, cigarette or otherwise, we are also very much ready to be able to do the search. And by the way, the searches that are being done are not just done in the port, but along the N4, as it were, there are still also those roadblocks that are there to be able to search the vehicles as they come towards the port.
Maybe let me just bring in other leaders here. There's the Provincial Police Commissioner as well as the MEC for Community Safety. I just want to know, at a government level, MEC, the working relationship between South Africa and Mozambique?
You've asked a very correct question as well from the briefing now. That was the first question that I've asked from the provincial commissioner as well as BMA and other, mending structures in this border. They've told me that they're working together with Mozambique is very mutual. It's very good. In fact, they've said it's 100%, of which that is making me pleased. And over and above that, we have looked at the border. As the commissioner have explained, the operational issues, I will leave them to them, both to the PC and BMA. Myself, the concern is the rise of crime, hijackings, breaking of trucks around here, the congestion on the road that is coming here. Those are the issues that I'm worried about, and what is the cause of that? We have discussed and picked up that one of the elements are these people that are selling foods, hawkers that have built imikuku around this border, that are contributing in communicating with criminals around the bushes around here. And I've given a clear instruction to the PC and to BMA that before we go to Minmac next week in Bloemfontein, an action must be taken about these squatters here. This is not a CPD. This is illegal to be here. Now, what makes it worse, and for us to see it moving away from here, it's because they contribute to the crime. People are dying here. Things are smuggled here, the wrong things, and cars are stolen from around Nkomazi and so on to Mozambique and the likes. So basically, we want to nip where the matters are starting.
All right, thank you very much, Tutu. That's the MEC for Community Safety, Security and Liaison in Mpumalanga. Maybe let's just wrap it up with the Provincial Commissioner of the Police. The MEC is raising the issue of people queuing here, those who are driving the trucks, and there's a lot of criminal activities. Is there any plan in terms of attending to that problem?
Yeah, thank you very much. We agree with what the MEC has been alluding. So far, like last night, we have experienced the trucks that have been hijacked or the windows were smashed. But what we did, we intensified our visibility of members because the trucks, as they were queuing and they are also filling the space of the incoming traffic, we've also mobilized the motorbikes which are going to be maneuvering to ensure that those criminals or the suspects that are there are going to be arrested. So far, with the plan that we are having in place, we have already located those particular suspects that have committed those particular crimes. The information that we cannot divulge now. But the members and the resources that have also been deployed in the borderline, I think with the working relationship with the BMA and our other law enforcers, the traffic, for example, that are being deployed for 24/7, we will be in the position to can make sure that the crime that is committed in the borderline is being kept into. I want to confirm now that as we are coming from the meeting, we also having another plan that we cannot divulge now. We are going to be implementing and executing it at this current moment to make sure that there will be no increasing of crime during this Easter season in the borderline. Thank you.
As with the PUB Commissioner, you're saying that you want to make sure there's no increase of crime. Yesterday, I listened to you when you were speaking at the launch of the Road Easter, the safety awareness campaign for the Easter holidays. You're saying that criminals are like wreaking havoc in Mpumalanga. And of late, we've heard of many people being shot dead, including Chief Nisi and his wife. Are there any leads now in that case? I'm sorry, I know it's not related to this particular engagement, but I would also want to know in terms of the criminal activities that are happening in the province.
Yeah, that is a very sensitive matter of investigation that I will, if you allow that, not going into detail in that case, because you know that lately also the wife has been killed. But we are doing something. The investigation is intense. We promise that in no time we will be giving progress regarding the case of the chief. But I must say and confirm that with the crime that is being committed and increasing in the province, we have put measures in place to ensure, especially now because it's also complemented by the Easter holidays that are here. So it calls for one to say all the law enforcers and the structures must come on board so that we ensure that as a province we are safe. But it's safe to say now the deployment and the visibility, like I alluded last time to say, if you take all other borders that are here in the province, you take all the hotspots like Bomoloto and the R55, the R573, we're already making sure that the deployment are intense and to ensure the safety of our people during these Easter holidays.
All right, thank you very much for talking to us, Tutu. That's the Provincial Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Simakaleng Manambela. Earlier on, we spoke to the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, Dr. Mike Masiapa, as well as the MEC for Community Safety, Security and Liaison here in Mpumalanga. They will be busy with operations now. As you know, that yesterday ended that Easter holiday road safety campaign was launched. So there's law enforcement agencies on the ground and also efforts being done to ensure that cross-border crime is dealt with.
Thank you very much, Mweli Masilela, for that report coming to us from Oshoek, I beg your pardon, Lebombo Border Post between South Africa and Zimbabwe.